Well, ladies, thank you for your time, and thank you, Katie, for your time as well. I know there's quite a few girls that are really keen to hear about your success. We've only been working since December. I don't know what date exactly, but roughly not even 6 months. And to summarize, before I kick it over to you, you've lost 20 kilos in that time. You have achieved some major milestones personally in terms of your own personal development, but as well, going through some big changes around work and home, and kicking some goals literally with footy. Excuse the pun. Tell us a little bit about your journey first, and then I'm going to dig straight into your prelude to starting this, because your starting this program was not without its hiccups. Tell us a little bit about yourself, what you've achieved so far, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, cool. I'd actually forgotten a lot of those things that you've been through with me, to be
really?
honest. So I started with you in the last week of December. I could tell you the exact date, but the moment I decided no more was no more. So I'm 30 years old. I've got 2 young girls, 4 and 5, who obviously keep me on my toes. My husband and I have been married just over 7 years. When I met Jay, I had just graduated as a registered nurse, but had no job to go to, so I was in a bit of a limbo land. I've always been somebody who has had a hunger to achieve, and as soon as I haven't had something to achieve or something that I'm working towards, down she goes. So I guess that's probably the best way to wrap myself in a nutshell.
That was the kind way to introduce yourself. I'm going to be a little bit cooler. Because when we spoke on the phone, we joked about this when we first did your first case study video, there was a total of 20 emails that went backwards and forwards between yourself and me. And I've not yet encountered anyone, maybe Lisa was the only other person who probably emailed me more or maybe the same amount as you. Not that it was a bad thing, but it was like, Jay, I want this. I am desperate for this. But to be honest with you, I'm shit scared. And I am terrified that I am going to fail yet again. And Jay, I cannot afford to fail. Where I am right now, I am feeling so much in a rut and negative in my own headspace and where I'm at, that if I fail again, Jay, you don't know what this is going to do to me. And I said, yes, Katie, but what if you fly? What if you actually succeed this time? And to your credit, you stepped up, and that wasn't, again, without its limitations, because you had financial pressure. You had work, you had this, you had that, family. There was a lot of things against you that wanted you to not do this, even to the point that your husband didn't really get on board, in the sense that you kind of jumped behind him and said, well, I'm doing it.
Yeah, pretty much. To be honest, he didn't know exactly that I had begun it. And that was.
Does he hate me or does he love me? I don't know which way it would be.
That was purely because of a financial strain. Like, I knew that he wouldn't be on board for the exact same reasons that I initially wasn't. And I totally respect that, which has to be said. But I know that I needed it, and to just to add on to what you were saying in regards to me being shit scared, which I was, of failing. But I think there was also the polar opposite of, I was scared of, well, what do I do when I succeed? So because I at the time was going through a headspace of I wasn't good enough, I wasn't worthy of it.
Yeah.
There was that, well, why should I be allowed to change? So it was what you were saying and the exact opposite at the same time.
So it was
quite against myself, really.
This fear of failing, but even more so the fear of succeeding, in the sense of then what? Am I just going to go straight through the same cycle that I've always done, in terms of win, fail, win, fail? The funny thing to me is, and I've worked with hundreds of people over the last 14 years, I've spoken with thousands of people, whether directly, indirectly, and the one thing that really surprises me is that when I'm speaking to females in particular, they seem to think they're going through this journey alone. They seem to think like they're the only ones who are dealing with this fear of failure, or I'm not good enough, or how could I possibly prioritize myself without feeling guilty, and all these things. And it's really interesting to me that you girls seem to suffer alone. It's like you put on this exterior, and this is not a negative assessment at all, but it's just an observation that It's like you have to put on this armor to be she-women. How did you get past that? How did you actually allow yourself to become vulnerable enough to make this change at the outset?
Quite honestly, that moment came with a phone conversation with yourself. And I have a particularly tough armour, I like to think. And somehow, to this day, I still don't know how, but you tore it apart in the space of about 15 or 20 minutes.
Bit of a sniper action straight through.
It amazed me because people have known me for 20-something years, haven't been able to get that far to the core of me. So...
okay, just on that, what was it? What was it? Let's talk specifics. What was it that I said that actually got to your head and you're like, fuck, excuse the French, but this guy's
No, you're right. That's pretty much what I thought.
What was it that I said? Or how was it? Whatever the theme was, can you remember what it was we were talking about that actually got through to that part of your mind that said, you know what, Katie, I need to do this?
You told me exactly what I was subconsciously thinking, but I didn't know. And that was that I wasn't good enough and that I wasn't worthy and that I wasn't successful. You said those three things to me. You said, I can see you feel like this, and that was it. I was done. And
how did that make you feel? How did that make you feel?
Oh, it was, in one way, it was a huge relief. It was like this massive burden was lifted. Somebody who doesn't cry very much, I remember I was an absolute sobbing mess. But other than this burden being lifted, it was this shame of how did I let myself feel like that? Because to look at the big picture, to say I'm not successful yet, I just completed my uni degree, and I've got 2 gorgeous kids and a house and a marriage, and to say you're not successful is just the most ludicrous thing to look back at and think that I genuinely wasn't. So it was that was the moment when you were able to tell me what it was in my head and verbalise it for me, that I was able to own it.
Okay, so we cracked through the shell, we cracked through the hard exterior of this is who I am, and I'm not going to show my vulnerability for the fear of failing, for the fear of success like we talked about, but you got past yourself, and like we said, and again in your first case study video, we identified that you were your biggest obstacle, as we all are to our own success. And it's something where I say we are our biggest problem, but we are also our biggest solution, in the sense that the problem we are is us. The solution that we need is us as well. So let's talk about your start in the program. You literally had to back yourself 100% because of the financial investment. It was, things were tight. You were in between work, like we said. More than that though, the emotional investment in yourself. You're like, I cannot afford to fail. There is no retreat. You lost about 5 kilos from the top of my head.
Hi, Shell.
Shell, can you put your video on mute? Or girls, if you can make sure your videos are on mute, that would be awesome.
There we go.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, girls. So you're starting the program. You literally shot out of the blocks. You lost 5 kilos from memory in about 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, something like that.
Just over 6 kilos in the first 2 weeks.
Just over 6 kilos in the first 2 weeks, which is not abnormal, but it's also not normal. It really is person dependent. Tell us about your journey from that point, because it was not smooth sailing, and you did hit some walls within about the first 3 or 4 weeks, true?
No, I think it was a little bit longer, because you picked me for having an issue within the first 3 or 4 weeks. So I said, stuff you, I'm not going to have issues in the first 3 or 4 weeks.
So when did it come then? When was it?
I think it was about week 7 that I hit the wall.
Okay. I always knew it was stubborn, which was going to work for your favour. That's why I was trying to use it.
Stubborn and competitive, so yeah.
What happened week 7? I remember it well.
I had a doozy of an argument with the husband, and that threw me back into the headspace of not worthy, not good enough, not successful.
So don't skim on the surface.
That was my go-to.
Let's not skim on the surface. Can you go deeper? I'm not worthy, I'm not successful, I can't, you're a failure, you're an idiot, whatever, the thoughts are running through your head. Go deeper. Tell me how that made you feel, because there's girls who are watching this going, yeah, cool, let's just skim the surface. No, let's go deep. Honestly, because there were times where I know you probably wanted to give up.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah, well, I mean, I think we've all been there in regards to having an argument with our significant other, whoever that is, or even an argument with a close family or friend, and to have the person, or what it is perceived at the time, to have the person that you rely on wholeheartedly, emotionally, physically, and financially, all of that stuff, to, when you're already in a vulnerable headspace, to have them say something in the heat of a moment. And I think things will be either very similar to what's said in those kind of arguments. But our significant others always know our Achilles tendon, or that nerve that will go straight to the point. Yeah, exactly. And we've all done it, and we've all been on the receiving end of it. So, and to have that raw point just dug into when you're trying your everything. That just broke me. That's honestly what it was. And but at the same time, I let it break me, if that makes sense.
It was almost like your preemptive of, well, I'm going to fail anyway.
Correct.
I'm not good enough.
Correct, and that's it. It threw me straight back to prior to week one.
What you'd always known to be true, that you're a failure,
exactly.
You're not going to succeed, that you're not good enough.
Exactly. It proved exactly what I had always believed, basically.
So how did you pick yourself up in that moment, particularly? I know there's been a few moments like that, but that moment there where I know some people watching this will be going, yeah, I've felt that recently, or maybe I'm there now. What did you do? Because one thing I know about you is that, you come from the Army background, you're training there, so you're very headstrong, you're very focused on, combat, whatever you call it, targeting, I don't know what the lingo, but you're very someone who you're not going to shy away from. There's a challenge, you're going to go scale that wall. How did you do that? Yes. Because it was not easy for you, and we plateaued for a while. You had an injury with your groin from memory early on as well. How did you get through that? How did you get over that wall?
I decided to do little things, spare of moment. So, like one of your favourite sayings is small hinges swing big doors. So I focused on the small hinges, so to speak. So, like I was saying to Core last night, I just did a morning ritual, and that would change my whole day. Or even if I just did 100 squats there and then, it physiologically, like you're saying, we're changing our physiological state, which is helping change our mental state. And that's been my go-to thing even now. We're all going to have shit days regardless of how long we do this journey or what have you. And we need to make sure that we've got those little tools set aside. So, that's my go-to, morning ritual or squats.
Well, what I love about that is that you're talking about developing a mental resilience, so that as you're changing, you're combating the enemy, which is yourself, which is those doubts, those fears, and perhaps presenting themselves through other people who are just reflecting back to us anyway what we're thinking and feeling. People are just mirroring what we're thinking and feeling about ourselves. And so what I hear you saying is that you developed a mental resilience by choice. It wasn't something that you started this journey, said, okay, woo, I'm going to do this 100%, let's go. We knew you were going to hit that wall. I told you were going to hit that wall. And you did. And in that moment, what you did well was, okay, rather than listening to the prelude of voices from the past, which tell me I can't, I'm not good enough, I'm incapable, whatever it is that's coming up, what I hear you saying is that you focused and shifted the focus more so on what you could do. So I can do this. I can do a morning ritual. I can do 100 squats. I can do. And in that moment, it's like just like picking up a small a small dumbbell and doing some bicep curls. You were developing the musculatory strength of your mind, or that resilience, by saying, I can, I can, I can, I will. And almost probably to your defiance, in that sense that I'll prove it to you. Keep saying that. I will prove it to you. And that's a good thing for yourself. Okay, let's fast forward now. We won't go through all the highs and lows. Again, your journey has not been perfect. There's been many obstacles along the way. Your life has changed in many ways, true?
Very much so, yes.
I remember a point where you were like, Jay, I don't think I can keep going. I haven't found a job. And we had some mindset work around that in terms of shifting focus and really leaning into it and you had some big wins with your work and stuff. I don't want to touch on that. Let's talk about where you are today. 20 kilos down. You're at your goal weight or 2 kilos off? I can't remember.
I'm now 1 kilo off of my goal weight.
Woohoo! 1 kilo off your goal weight, which has been a hard slog. Absolutely. 6 months. It's well worth celebrating. Tell us about life now. How is life different? Don't skim the surface. I want you to go deep. How is life different in yourself? Let's start with the external in terms of everyday life, in terms of energy, clarity, work, sense of fun, purpose, all those things. And then take us a little bit deeper in terms of how you feel within yourself now that you've developed that mental resilience.
Yeah, cool. So as we spoke about, I've now got a job. I'm sitting in my work uniform ready to go to work after this. I'm quite happy in my job. I'm actually being offered extra bits and pieces here, possibly contracts coming up, which is unheard of in the South Australian Health Department at the moment. But anyway, I'm training 2 to 3 times a week with footy, and then playing a game on the weekend on top of that, and have been basically taken on by professionals saying that they think I can take it at that level higher. So, I'm really loving my football at the moment, and family life, so much happier. It's very true, happy wife, happy life.
As she raises the eyebrow, she says, listen, take note.
And naturally, when mum and dad are happy, the kids are much, much happier, much more settled as well. So
okay, let's go deeper. I love the surface. Let's go deep.
No, that's what I was about to say. So, that's the external of it now. The mindset is so different. I have bad days still. We're all going to have those. But knowing that I'm able to achieve what I put my headspace to. So knowing that I am 1 goal off of my weight, knowing that I can be worthy of certain positions at work, which is unheard of for how little I've been in the job. Knowing that I'm being told by professional footballers that I can play at a state level, I feel like because my headspace has changed, all of this good stuff is just throwing itself at me. And it really is coming down to headspace, because when you're in that better headspace, you throw yourself, you think, oh, what have I got to lose? It's a complete 180 from where I was 5-6 months ago, or even 3 months ago, realistically.
And how do you deal with stress or pressure now, in the sense of when you do fail? Because you've made some mistakes, and you were talking about something even, work-related stuff, like you're failing, you are making mistakes, and that's normal. How do you deal with that now?
Well, my old reaction would have been sit at home, have a drink, and eat some crap. Effectively, that's what it was. Now it's I can't wait to hit the footy oval and cut some laps. I write a lot more. I used to write back in the day when things started to clutter up my head. So now I've gone back to writing again.
Yeah.
And naturally, in my particular field of work, debrief is quite an important thing anyway. So debriefing is a massive thing if it's anything work related. But now I'm finding I want to do that session, that workout session. I want to do that exercise because, as spoken earlier, the physiological change from doing that, from getting the heart rate up, can change my day completely.
Totally. Let's go into the details of what's worked well for you. And girls, if you do want to ask any questions, just type in the question box. I don't know where it is on your screen, but it's to the right of mine. I want to talk to you about the practicalities. We just had the 10-day challenge where you lost 7.
Yeah.
Was it 7 kilos?
Insane amount. I know. I still can't believe that. 7 kilos
in 10 days, which is a huge amount.
Yeah.
Tell us about the practicalities that you found has not only just worked well in that 10 days, but throughout the process of your journey, you've consistently lost good weight, not always perfect weight. Sometimes you put on a little bit, you've plateaued. It hasn't been a perfect journey per se. What has worked the best for you in terms of, let's start with food. Let's go to your overview structure schedule of what you've developed for yourself. And I might ask you a few questions around that. So overview structure of what's worked well, and we might even touch on some of the foods you're eating, etc.
Yep. So my main go-to thing is planning my day before I've had it. So in my fitness pal, I like to the night before generally I'll go, all right, well, this is what my day entails, so I'll go bump, 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 and take into account if I'm going to go out somewhere or what have you. And if I know I'm going out, I'll look at their menu on the internet the day before and source it.
So let me get this straight. So would you say, let's give it a percentage, out of the last 6 months we've been working together, the percentage of time that you've been pre-planning your meals the day before is what?
Oh, see, that's been off and on. So during my plateaus, that's when I wasn't doing well was when I wasn't pre-planning.
So hang on, interesting connection here. When you were plateauing with your weight loss, you weren't being methodical or purposeful in what you were doing in terms of how you were approaching it. So your formula with your eating, with choosing the right foods, etc.
Yeah.
Okay.
Pretty much.
How much of the time in the last 6 months would you have been going well? 50%, 60%, what?
Food-wise, probably 60 to 70%.
So 60
probably
to 70%, 60%. So out of 100, that's only just a pass, and yet you still got great results. So it's good to show that you don't have to be perfect in your approach.
Correct.
You don't have to be methodical every single day, making sure you're mapping out. But by and large, you've said, Jay, I've noticed the best results, just to make sure I got this right,
for myself,
when I've been planning and being on target 60% of the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, cool. So let's dig down on that. What have been some of your go-to meals that have been quick and convenient that you could share? We'll start with brekkie.
Yeah. Look, honestly, I'm an eggs on toast gal, like quick and simple.
Yeah.
Or a quick protein shake. I mean, a protein shake's a go-to thing as well.
For brekkie? Okay, so eggs on toast. One piece of toast, how many eggs?
I usually have 2 eggs and 1 piece of toast.
Yeah, hang on 2 secs. Hey, Nadine. That's right, I gotcha. Welcome, Nadine. Good to see you.
So that's probably... and depending on how my macros are looking, depends on whether I have 1 or 2 pieces of toast. I love a baked salmon. So whether I have that for lunch or dinner, I'm a huge fan of baked salmon.
So you do a Atlantic salmon, you'll bake that and take that with what? A salad?
Sometimes I'll just put a bit of sweet mashed potato on the side.
Okay, so sweet mashed potato and salmon, just those things together.
Yeah.
Okay. What about go-to snacks? Because you're a shift worker, you work overnight. We might talk about your strategy in 2 seconds. I know there's some people that would love to know that. But snacks during the day.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember what bars they're called. The ones that you put up.
Carmen nut bars.
Yeah. Yep. So I like those ones. I love. I take, because I remember you early on in the piece saying you take protein powder in a Ziploc bag.
Yeah.
So that's one of my things that I take to work quite often as well. One of the recipes that I put up a while ago, I might have to do it again, was sweet potato rounds, and I like to put a bit of homemade guacamole and bacon chips on it.
Nice.
That is really good.
I remember you posting that video in the group, the recipe in the group.
Yeah, and it's only like 50 calories per round. It's just amazing. That's one of my favourites.
Okay, so looking at the content of your food, this is going to kick us off in 10 minutes because we've only got a 40-minute session spot, unfortunately.
No, you're right.
Tell us percentage of eating well. So we know that 60% of the time you ate well in terms of planning. What about the actual food? When you weren't planning overall, let's say 0 to 100% throughout the last 6 months, Has it been 80% well, 50% well, less, more? What do you reckon?
I'd probably say 80% when it comes to, so even when I wasn't planning, I was making very conscious decisions of, I know roundabouts how much that is, or I know roundabouts how much that is. So, I was really almost, I think because I was mapping it out so well before, I had a general idea of when I wasn't mapping out.
So you put a bit of time in at the start to really get an understanding of some basic meal ideas, basic snack ideas, and use them as your reference point.
And have them as my go-tos, like I know roundabouts what they were. So I could just pull them out and know roundabouts what was happening for the day.
Okay, cool. Ladies, as I'm speaking as well, if you do have any specific questions, Shell said here, said, I'd sell a kidney to have your eating plan during the 10-day challenge or any weeks when you've had great results. Interesting concept. So we've got 8 minutes remaining on this, just to let us know. Thank you for the reminder, Zoom.
Well, later on, Shell, I might be able to, I won't be able to do it straight away because I'm straight to work, but I might be able to look back and screenshot some of my days and
Perfect.
Show the macros.
Love it. That would be awesome. Yep. Okay, let's talk about your training. What do you think's worked the best? Because you've noted in the group many times where, Jay, when I started this program, I couldn't, run one lap? I can't remember.
I ran half a lap of the football oval and now I can run 12.
12, and you can keep up with girls not half your age because that would be too young, but
I've got a good 10 years on or more, and they're professional footballers.
Okay, so let's talk about your training in terms of how much training you've been doing on average throughout this process. We know it's changed focus now that you're playing footy. You've been doing more active, specific training for that, but you'll still be getting to the gym, some weights, some HIIT sessions, etc. Think about the start of your program. How many days a week were you training?
5.
5 days?
Without a doubt, yep.
Without a doubt,
and
so 5 days without a doubt.
Yep, and every now and then I might throw in my own session on top of what you'd given me.
And what would the focus be if you were doing something on top of that? What would it have been? Cardio?
I was about to say predominantly cardio for me. Yeah.
Okay.
Because I knew what I was working towards in regards to football, so I knew I wanted cardio up.
Got it. So you had that goal focus. I want to get to footy. Yep. I want to make sure I've got that baseline. Okay, cool. So 5 days a week religiously. We know you took up footy as well. You've got footy training. You've got games. You're playing on Saturdays, I think, or on the weekend. Give me a snapshot of what has worked the best for you. You feel, with the mixed approach we've used, the different style of training we've incorporated to your program. What do you think's been the best? Like the mix between the high intensity, the cardio, the strength, the combo together. What do you reckon?
As much as I need cardio, I hate cardio. Just throwing that out there for an FYI. But I really love the strength work, and I love the high intensity. The thing I love about the HIITs is it's quick, but it's effective.
Yeah.
So especially for people who are time poor, love the HIIT.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So the return on investment in terms of your time investment, busy mum, 2 girls, busy family, shift worker, etc. On the shift worker thing, jump back. What's your schedule? What's your strategy for shift work? Do you eat? Do you not? What's worked best for you?
Yeah. I've had a recent shift in this. Previously, I've never eaten whilst on night shift, but I noticed that I wasn't eating during the day because I was sleeping as much as I possibly could between doing the school run, because I only had between 9:30 and 2:30 to actually get sleep, so I wasn't waking for lunch anymore.
Got it.
So I've recently started to change that a bit and started to do more of a grazing on things that I know that I'm allowed to have throughout the night shift. And that way I was never tempted because on night shift, nurses like to bring a lot of junk food and have a communal snack fest, I guess you could say. So I started bringing my own stuff that I knew that would prevent me from being tempted because I was starving.
Got it. So in other words, you prepped yourself well and to the best of your ability manage your calorie intake, whether it was at night time, during the day, relative to when you were sleeping, etc.
Correct. Yeah,
okay.
I always made sure that from 12 to 12, I was still hitting the macros and the calorie count regardless of when I did do it.
Got it. So really that window of 12 till 12, what's my calorie goal, what's my macro goal, how am I going to hit that? It will change from day to day if I'm working or not.
Yep, so whenever it hits midnight at work, that's really exciting because that's the start of my new macro day.
I can eat. Okay, we've got 4 minutes and 4 seconds to go.
Yep.
I want to hone in real quick on, you're now going to coach someone who's up against the wall. Karina put a very vulnerable post in the group, which I loved, and I love the support getting around that and the vulnerability there as well. Let's say that you're coaching someone who's up against the wall. Maybe you're speaking to Karina, but not specifically on her specifics. What would you say to someone who is struggling right now, who is doubting themselves, who is struggling to develop that mental resilience in terms of taking action, following through? You've got 3 minutes, 30 seconds. Use it to the best of your ability and go.
No pressure. Yeah, thanks. Quite honestly, I know you said it can be quite hard, but we have to make that conscious decision, and we have to allow ourselves to be vulnerable to the process and open to the process. So
what does that mean to you? Vulnerable and open. What does that mean?
Yeah. So I was about to say, okay, we recognise what it is that we're feeling, not to brush it under the carpet, not to go, well, fuck it, well, sorry, stuff it, I'm not going to do my workout, or stuff it, I'll eat some crap. So to make sure that, okay, this is what I'm feeling, understand why it is you're feeling that way, because then you can understand it. And as soon as we understand something, we can deal with it. So then you can rationalize it to yourself. So like I said, I used to think, oh my gosh, I'm not successful and da-da-da. But to step back and say, well, actually, I've got a degree and I've got a beautiful family and like it's so why was I thinking that in the first place? You
gave yourself that space to step back and look at it objectively. Correct. And say, hang on, Katie, calm down, look at where you're at.
Yep, absolutely. And then, sorry.
No, you go.
Oh, I was going to say, and then after recognizing, after understanding it, then you don't think about it in regards to don't think, just do. So that was my other thing is I had to stop overthinking. Oh, I have to do this. I have to do it. Just do it.
So in other words, think about it for a little bit, get clear perspective, then put it to the side. Just do it. Real quick before they cut us off, and if they do, thank you for your time. Really appreciate it. What would you say to yourself 6 months ago? Pretend you're talking to yourself. What would you have said? That person who was doubting herself, fearing herself. What would you say? You
and I have had this conversation before, and it was stop thinking about it and just fucking do it. Absolutely. No more bullshit excuses.
Absolutely. Well, I love it. Well, well done. We celebrate you. Well done on the amazing results. Super excited to see where you're going to take this, and I know you've only got good things in store.
Thank you very much, guys. I hope you have a good night.
Shall do, and enjoy that 12 o'clock tick over tonight when you get to eat.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, guys. Have a great night, all.